Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and today I am out in weather which is so very cold. It's less than 10 degrees here, which is really not the weather to be taking out a convertible. However, if there's anything that's going to get us fired up, it's the Austin Healey 3000 Mark 1. Now this car is a beautiful example. So beautiful in fact, it's used as the example car for clubs, enthusiasts, manufacturers when they're looking to try and match up or reference the originality. And best of all, it's now up for sale. So if you are a purist and you're looking for one of these, this might be the car for you. I've put all the details of the owner in the description box below. Now anyway, in this video today, we're going to have a good old look at this car, and it has led quite the life. It started off here, then it went to New York, then it lived in California, and then it came back here, and it's spent a lot of years in the sunshine, which probably explains why it is so solid. Now in today's video, if you've never watched one of these before, we're going to have a look around the outside. We're going to look at that BMC C-Series engine under the bonnet. We're going to have a look in the boot space as well, and then best of all, we are going to take it out for a test drive. Now I fell in love with this the minute that I set off. It is exceptional, and if you've never heard of these before, this might be one of your favourite cars you've ever seen on iDriver Classic. So buckle up, we're off to have a look at the Austin Healey 3000 Mark 1. After we recently tested Kev's MGC, there were several requests to test an Austin Healey 3000. So when my friend Chris told me he was putting his up for sale due to health reasons, and by the way, if you want to buy it, I've put his telephone number in the description box below, and he said I could drive it before he sold it, I jumped at the chance because I have loved this car for ages. Now I know that channel aficionados will know that we've tested a Litre 3000 before. I think it was a Mark III, but a Mark 1 of any vehicle is so special because it's where the story begins, and the story began for the 3000 in 1959 when the car was introduced to replace the 106, and it was a meaty step up for the buyer because the 106 had been fitted with the 2.6 litre engine, and this new 3000 was fitted with the BMC C-Series engine, which is a 3 litre unit. It's actually 2912cc for those who like the precise detail, and they then fitted that with twin HD6 semi-downright SU carbs, giving 130 brake horsepower at 4,750 RPM. The 106, the outgoing model, was only giving 100 horsepower, hence the name, meaning that buyers were getting a decent step up by going for the new 3000. The solid skirt aluminium alloy pistons that were fitted into the engine were designed with 3 compression rings and 1 slotted oil control ring, and the timing chain was automatically adjusted by a slipper type tensioner. So as you can see, it's a big step up in terms of tech if you're into all your engine builds and stuff. Now that's not where they stopped, because although they use the same chassis as they're using on the 106, they do think about things like brakes because we are going up in the world. So the brakes were upgraded from drums on front to Girling discs at front. And there were 2 body styles, the 2+2 as we're testing here today, and the much rarer 2-seat Roadster. And if you're wondering what optional extras you get, a brochure from the time shows them as wire wheels, overdrive gearbox, you get a laminated screen, you could have got a heater, an adjustable steering column, a detachable hardtop, radio, and also 2-tone paint. Now the radio is a bit of a funny one, and I know some people bring this up because it's advertised in some brochures but not others. Seems to depend on which market you're buying into in terms of which country. Another feature which is pushed in the brochures and should probably be mentioned is the lockable boot. Now I don't think I've ever tested anything from this era without a lockable boot, but hey, the brochure waxes lyrical about the security of it, and therefore we should probably mention it in this video. It should also come as no surprise that this particular example was exported because they were incredibly popular overseas, so much more so than they were here, and in fact by the Mark II in the early 60s, over 90% were destined for the export market. Now coming back to the Mark I, there were 13,650 made, and the vast majority, over 10,000 I believe it was, were the type that we're testing here today, the 2+2 model. Now the idea was, if you're wondering why that space in the back is so small, it's for the husband and wife in the front and for children in the back. So when you're small, I guess you don't need legroom. Now that carried on until 1961 when the Mark II was introduced. And again, if you look at the models through the Mark II and the Mark III, there were improvements made throughout the production. And then the 3000 was eventually discontinued in 1967. But hey, like any true classic, it's still popular all over the world today. I don't know about you, but I love the layout of this dash. It feels classy, simplistic, yet it seems to have everything that we need. And if you think about it, remember, this car came to market in 1959. And I think the one that Motor Magazine tested was £1,326, including taxes. So it wasn't cheap. But I think sometimes people get het up in this idea that when cars are from the 50s or 60s, they're really antiquated and there's not much going on. And in this, it couldn't be further from the truth. Although I tell you what, there isn't much of space, because honestly, if I was in a bigger body, I think I would struggle to get into this. So if you are in a bigger body and you're looking at one of these yourselves, perhaps maybe look at something like the MGC, because you do have a bit more room inside to manoeuvre around and fit yourself in. This is quite a tight squeeze, and I wouldn't say that I'm the largest lady on the block anymore. So I mean, goodness knows what it must have been like, but people were smaller back then. Anyway, let's talk about what we've got. So running from left to right, first of all, you have got the grab handle on the left-hand side. Now, it is worth mentioning that this was at one point in its life on left-hand drive, but when it came back to the UK, it went on to right-hand drive with all original Austin Healey parts. So if it looks as you would think it would look for a right-hand drive vehicle, that's probably why. So the grab handle is for when I put my foot down on the M62 and I'm reaching 115 miles per hour like Motor Magazine. That's a joke, I'm not going to do that today. You've got a clock next to you just there, you've got your screen wash, you've got your temperature controls here. Now, it is worth mentioning that the heater on these was an optional extra, and you might be thinking, A, why would I need one? Fair enough, because if you've got the roof off, why are you needing it? And B, you might be thinking, wow, what? Look, that was a thing back in like the 40s, 50s and even into the 60s on cars. You were having to pay extra for stuff like this. There's also a load of other optional extras that I talked you through earlier, things like the overdrive, which we have on this, the wire wheels, you had laminated screen, two-tone paint. There was lots that you could add on to boost up that price. You've got your choke in the middle, you've got your key just here, you've got your oil and water gauge over here, so that's your water temperature. You're coming over to your rev counter on the left hand side, and you've got your speedo on the right. Now, this is just a preference thing, but I would have liked my speedo on the left hand side and my rev counter on the right, because as we know, we read from left to right, and that is where my eyes would naturally sit. So let me know what you think. Would you prefer it to be there as well? Coming over onto the right hand side, we've got that overdrive that I was just talking about. Now, the overdrive on this is only on the top two gears, so that's third and fourth. Above that, you've got the side and headlights just there. Just a neat little pull switch for those, and then you've got your fuel gauge over on the far right. Now, in your terms of your fuel gauge, I think they were saying that you didn't get much. I think you only got about 24 miles per imperial gallon out of these, which is not much at all. However, it's miles per gallon in this, not miles per gallon. In terms of how quickly getting 0 to 60, it's, goodness me, it's 11 seconds 0 to 60, and 0 to 100 is 31 seconds. And when Motor Magazine took it out and tested it to see if that was true and the Austin Healey promise was correct, they got it 0 to 60 in 11.7 seconds on the test car. So I reckon it's probably absolutely bob on. Now, this one is rorty. It sounds absolutely incredible. I was talking to you about that 3 litre engine earlier, but what does it sound like? Well, we'll turn it. It is a push start on this, probably should have mentioned that. Oh, by the way, I meant to also tell you, the accelerator is really far offset into this corner, and I keep pressing the brake instead of the accelerator. So let's try that again. It sounds really meaty, but you want to know where it sounds best? From the exhaust. Let's have a listen. Right, let's go on an adventure. Now look, I know that you can probably see out there that the roads are congested. Even though we're out on a Friday lunchtime, come on. Everyone needs to get off the road so I can just put my foot down. Now we are heading towards the dual carriageway because I do want to get a little bit of speed out there and show you what this 3 litre is capable of. Well, to some extent. I'm certainly not going to be able to be hitting those 100-mile-per-hours that I could do if I was somewhere like an autobahn or in the world before speed cameras existed. Now as I come to a stop and the speed of the vehicle slows down, this is a perfect time for me to tell you about the second gear thing. So I've got 2 bits of advice when I got into this car. Chris said, number 1, you won't need to use first gear, although out of habit I've just gone into it there, because he said it'll set off fine in second, and he is absolutely correct. And second of all, he said to me, you'll find the steering very heavy. But here's the thing, because I've driven so much old stuff now, and actually the standard is relatively heavy and the Proton is absolutely frightful, especially at low speeds. Coming inside this, it's really not that bad at all. However, if you only drive modern stuff, this might catch you by surprise, but really it's no worse than a lot of the other stuff. So it's one of those things, you just get used to it, don't you? It's a powerful vehicle and you need a firm hand with it. It's just one of those things. Now this is quite a pleasant drive today. Number 1, because it is so close to originality and how it should be. You know, it's not been mucked around with or had unsightly modifications applied to it. And second of all, the owner Chris is really fastidious with the care of his vehicles, and it's had the suspension recently done, it's all new tyres, and he did actually say to me, if you've ever driven one of these and it's not felt that great, it might be because they're a bit sensitive on the tyre pressures. So he's recently done the tyres and he's also done the brakes as well. So we're coming out in what I can only deem as probably one of the very best examples. So we are quite spoiled. Now we can get up to 50, so come on, let's do it. Oh blimey, that is brilliant. Now it's only this pesky speed camera and the law, of course, that's stopping me from going much faster. Now a lot of people would say, do you feel at risk or exposed because you're so low down or the vehicle's small? Not at all. I just feel so powerful, and really, this is just, even 50 miles per hour feels like the most exciting fairground ride you've ever been on. It's wonderful. I know it's certainly not a supercar, but who needs a supercar when you can go out something like this and it's gorgeous, it's fun. You can't be doing all these ginormous speeds anyway in modern cars, so you might as well just enjoy what you've got. Now, I'm trying to think what I can tell you that I don't like about it. I guess in comparison to some of the other sports cars from the era, you really don't have much room around you in the cabin, so if you are of a larger stature, you're really going to struggle. But for me, I just adore this. The layout of the dash, the driving style, the seating position, everything about it for me ticks the boxes, and it really brings you to life. Now I'm going to carry on dodging these speed cameras, ruining my hairdo for today, but for you at home, take care and drive safely.